Hello and welcome to a new Google Sheets video in Practical Sheets. Today we're going to do a very interesting thing. We're going to do a pop-up. We've already done videos about pop-ups, but today we're going to do customizable pop-ups. This means that it's not just the template that Sheets gives you, but with a little bit of HTML, you could give it color, you can have links, you can change the size and much more. Let's see it in action. So here, the example we're going to do after explaining everything, we have some revenue day by day, and let's say I'm going to have a new revenue on this date of, I don't know, 30,000. And the next time I open my file, I'm going to have a pop-up alert that lets me know the current value of the revenue. And I have a link, and I could customize the size if I want it smaller, bigger. I have this background that is horrible on purpose to show you. We can have backgrounds. We could also have buttons if you like. Anything you can add through an HTML web page, tables, images, anything, you could do it here. So it's a very potent function that we're just scratching the surface in this video during the introduction, so you learn how to do it. Before you begin, there's one thing you should know is that this won't work on cell phones. So it's very important for you to know that this will only work on desktop. Okay? And now, without further ado, just a big thanks to my Patreons. And if you want to become a patron and be able to download more than 150 templates ready to use with Google Sheets, Google Forms, Google Apps Script, and more, you're welcome to visit my Patreon page and check it out. If not, just thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, a comment in the comment section. It's a good push. Thank you so much. Let's begin. So let's begin from scratch as always. We're going to do sheets.new, and we're going to start from when we ended in the last video of this series of pop-ups. I'm going to do a very simple pop-up to show you the limitations, and then we're going to see how can we do a much more customizable pop-up using HTML. So let's give this a name. HTML pop-ups. Let's do extensions, AppScript. And for now, we're going to do a basic alert that we did in the last video of pop-ups, just to show you and see the differences. So let's call this pop-up. It's very simple to do a pop-up, actually. We're going to do spreadsheetup.getUI. If you want, you can call this or store it in a variable or in a constant called UI, so you can call it whenever you want. If you're going to do multiple alerts, we're going to do UI dot hit this alert. Alert is the most basic of pop-ups because it just gives me information, nothing more. So let's say hello world, and that's it, nothing more. Let's save it. As you can see, very simple. Let's run it. You can see that this is taking too long. The reason is that this will continue to run while we have the pop-up. Here you can see it. So this is the pop-up. As you can see, very simple but very fixed. There's nothing we can do. Maybe you want to have different type of wording, of letters in your color, of fonts. You want to make this bigger. You want the bottom to be different, to have a different name. I don't want it to say okay because I wanted to say save, I don't know, whatever you want. You cannot customize this. For customization is what we're going to learn today. So let's hit OK. And we're going to leave it just so you can always compare. And now we're going to do UI, not alert, but we're going to use this show modal dialog. This is what I want. Show modal dialog is the way of creating pop-ups that are a bit more advanced. I can do this in a number of ways. If you open your parentheses, let's give it a bit more space so I can see the help. Here you can see that I need two things. The title of the modal. Let's play this again, so we can see this in action. Let's save and let's run it again. Let's run it again. I'm being asked for some permissions because I started put the this show modal dialog that is a different service. So this is why I'm asking, even though I'm commenting it, it still asks me for the permission. So here you can see that this doesn't have a title. I could do it here in my alert. I could also put a title here, but then I need also to put which button set do I need. So it's much more complicated. So to put a title in alert, I need to do a couple of things. Here you can see that it's very easy, because in my show modal dialog, again, I'm going to hit enter a couple of times. You can see that I just need the object that is going to be an HTML object and the title. So let's call this alert, HTML alert. Here I'm going to create an HTML object. Let's call it like that, HTML object. Now I need to create it. Before I call it, I need to create it. So how I'm going to create it? I'm going to use the service HTML service. This is the service that allows me to create HTMLs or HTML objects better. I can do it with a number of methods. The simplest one is this HTML output. Inside of here, I will put an HTML, a very simple HTML, just a header that says hello world. And that's it. I'm going to store this in an HTML object. The same one I've already called here in my show modal dialog. Save it and let's run it. I will comment the alert. The first difference between the alert and the modal is that this has already executed. So it's like they're saying, go ahead and do your thing, and then you can call me back if you want me to. But it doesn't wait for a response. The alert waits for a response. You could see in our first example that this was executing. So this just executes once, publish the HTML, and then if you have some buttons here or anything, then you can call them. This is the first difference. The second difference is that it's a bit bigger by default. Let's do both. Let's save and let's run it just to see them side by side. So you can see the hello world, and here you can see that if I don't close it, it continues to be there in the background. So unless you close it, well, actually, let's do it again. Let's run it. And here you can see the small alert one, and then you can see the bigger HTML alert. Okay. This is the first difference. The second difference is that you can customize. The first thing, a lot of things. The first thing we're going to customize is the size. So our HTML object has some properties. I could say HTML object dot, and you can see a lot of properties here. The ones that concern me right now could be set height and set width. So I will say set height, and let's put 1000, and here following set width, and let's do 1000 also. Let's save and let's close this and run it again. I'm being asked for some additional permits. Authorization, let's allow it. Again, let's see the alert first, and then let's see the HTML alert. Here we have very big, or you could have it much smaller, depending on what you want. But this is the first customization, so this looks really nice. So the first, we have a title. We could change the title. Secondly, we could change the sizes. And then from then on, it's your imagination going wild. Anything you can do with HTML, you can do here. For example, you want to put a link in our alert. We cannot put links. Here we can do it. You need to know a bit of HTML, but even simpler, you can go to an HTML editor, HTML online editor. You can click in Google and then go, I don't like this W3 School, so go to the second or the third one. And you can place a link, for example, visit our site. And inside, I'm going to insert a link to my site. Then I'm going to click in Edit HTML Editor. I'm going to copy this. And after this hello world, I'm going to paste this other thing. Although I'm going to put this with simple quotation marks so that I don't have incompatibilities. Everything should be red, so I don't have mistakes. Let's save it, and let's run it again. More alert as always. And here you can see that we have a link, a working link. And you could also have images, and you could also have different kind of fonts. So for example, let's do another one here. So this one, we're going to put it in bold, and this one with a different color. Where is my color? An orange, and this one with a different size. Here, let's go HTML. Let's copy this again. Easier still, instead of putting everything between double quotations, we're going to put everything inside single quotations, and then I won't have the problem. I think, let's see, I have here some problem, and nothing weird. Let's save, and let's do it again. Close and run. Our basic, and then here you can do whatever you want. Fonts, sizes, colors, links, images, everything you can do on HTML. Tables you can do here, forms, so you can start seeing the real possibilities of this. You can have complete forms with drop downs, autocomplete, different sections, whatever, any web app. If you see my videos on web apps, all of the web apps, you can insert the HTML on a pop-up like this. So you can have very powerful mini applications inside your sheet. So this is just the tip of the iceberg of a very, very potent solution. Okay. Before we go, let's do as an example connecting our sheet. So this is useful for something. Okay. So let's say here I have current revenue. Let's see. And I have, this is my dashboard, and here I'm going to have my revenue sheet, and I'm going to have some dates, and let's hit some revenues numbers, and in dashboard I'm just going to do a very simple sum. Now I want to show in my pop-up, every time someone enters or opens my sheet, I want to display a pop-up that says in a very big font the current cumulated revenue until today is $228,000, something like that. Okay, so let's do it. I'm going to remove this UI alert. Before all of this, we're going to connect to our sheet. There are many ways of doing this. Let's do the one I prefer, spreadsheet up. Always you need spreadsheet up, always. Then the methods you use to get there may be different. I always use this, get active spreadsheet. This will be my whole workbook. Then I'm going to connect with a spreadsheet, a sheet by its name, with the get sheet by name method. And for this, I need the exact name. This case will be dashboard. And here, it's important to put it inside quotation marks. And finally, I'm going to connect to a specific cell with this get range method. In this case, I'm always going to connect with B1 because there I have my formula. So it's as easy as in quotation marks, put B1, although there are other ways of getting there. And finally, I'm going to get the value because I don't need anything else from the cell but the value. And this I'm going to store in a variable called current revenue. And here in my HTML object, I'm going to, let's go to our HTML editor, switch to the editor, and let's say current cumulated revenue is 555. Okay, keep up the good work. And this keep up the good work, I'm going to put it in another color. Let's put green, and let's maybe bold, no, maybe just italic. And this 555, I'm going to put it actually down here. I'm going to remove bold from this and from this. I'm going just to leave this with bold and with a very, very big font. And maybe I'm going to center all of this. Okay. Accumulated is not accumulated. Okay. So let's go to the HTML. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it inside my simple quotations. Now I need to erase all spaces so I don't have an error. The color coding helps us to determine that everything is well. And now you can see some of the limitations of this HTML output method. Is that if you have very complex HTMLs, then you have this bunch of text that you cannot understand. So we're going to see in a minute how to improve this. Let's save it. And I'm missing one thing. Here I'm going to replace this 555. I'm going to replace it. I'm going to put this quotation, single quotations, and I'm going to use the concat operator, that is a plus sign, and we're going to use this current revenue because I want this to always be the value in this cell. Let's save. And let's run it. Current cumulative revenue is 228000. Okay, so this is very big, so I'm going to remove a bit of height from this, and I want this to have the format of currency. So in my set height, I'm going to change this to 500. Maybe also width, we could leave it 500. And instead of get value, we're going to use get display value. So it brings also all the formatting. Let's run it. And now it's much, much better. And if I don't want this, for example, these decimal points, then I just remove it from here. And given that I'm using get display value, let's run it again. And it looks much, much nicer. Actually, this height is still too big. So let's do this 200, save, and run again. Perfect, much nicer. Okay, so now you can see examples of how can we customize it. I'm not including even here. We could also include images if I wanted, colors, maybe a background color. We could do it. So here, if I go to my HTML, then maybe I could put a background color. Maybe here you cannot do it, but if you know a bit of HTML, you could do it. Here, that we can include all of this in a div. And we could give to this div a style. So style, colon, and inside my style, I could say background color. Actually, this is equals, and here is a column. And then we could say red, for example, just for the example. Let's save it. Let's close this. Let's run it. And you can see it's really, really horrible. But again, it gives you just an idea of everything we can do. And it's a next step from the alerts, the basic alerts we already done. Okay? So the final thing I want you to know is that we can trigger this from different ways. One is to have a menu here. The second one could be with a button. The third one could be with a trigger such as on edit. For example, once a user types something, you can trigger an alert depending on what he typed. Finally, the one we're going to do today is once the file is open, we're going to trigger this function. There are two ways of doing this. Let's try the first one. It may not work. Function on open. It needs to be called on open. And inside my on open, we're going to just call the popup function with the parentheses. Let's save it. I'm going to refresh this, which will close my Google App Editor. Let's give it a couple of seconds. And as I told you, as I teased you, it won't work. Let's go and see why. I'm going to my executions, and you can see there's an error. And the error is the following. You don't have permission to call UI show modal dialog. The unopened method or trigger has some limitations or restrictions. One of them is to be able to access external services. This spreadsheet app, for example, get active spreadsheet, all that is not considered an external service. However, the spreadsheet app get UI is considered an external service. This is why we're going to delete the unopened and we're going to do what is called an installable trigger. So it's the same thing, but we're going to do it from another menu. Go to triggers. We're going to manually create the trigger. So we choose the function we want to trigger. We always leave this as head. Here we're going to change, we're going to leave this from spreadsheet and we're going to leave the unopened as event type. Let's save. The disadvantage of this method is that if you do a copy of this file, the trigger will disappear. You need to create it every time you do a copy. Okay. Now let's try it again. Let's refresh. And now you can see my alert. Okay. And if I change this, let's say that there's another day coming and I have 150,000. So now my revenue is 378 and I open my file again. Then I have it updated. Okay. So there are many ways where we can take this, because this was the most simple. You could do conditional, show you this in green if it's better than the forecast, or the goal red if it's lower. You can do a lot of really nice things and customize it however you like. Just let me know and maybe we can do a course later or do more advanced videos on the topic. Thank you so much for seeing the video. A subscription, thumbs up, a comment will help me a lot. But if you want to dig deeper into these subjects, you can go to the Patreon page where you can download the template, ask me more things, and hopefully very soon we're going to have courses and more related to these topics. Thank you so much, particularly to my Patreons. See you next time.